Have you heard what recently happened in Virginia or South Carolina? Yes, folks, wholesaling, the practice of wholesaling properties is now illegal in
Ooh.
Virginia and South Carolina. I'm curious, could this happen in all 50 states? I don't know. Let's see. Let's have a conversation with Adrian Hernandez. Adrian, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on, Zuber? What's going on, the community? Good to see y'all. Interesting, right? Major changes in the wholesale space. Major changes. A lot of people running for the hills, not knowing what to do. We have some major regulation changes in Virginia, South Carolina. I do know there's some following states that are going to follow the trend on exactly what's going on. There's been some illegal practices done, not done the right way. You have a lot of novations where people are signing sellers' closing statements, having powers of attorneys, being able to sign anything and everything. And as we've talked about before, I said eventually there would be a novation bus. Here we are. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
so let's really break down what I did read the Virginia one. I did not follow up on South Carolina. I'm going to assume it's the same thing. Basically, in Virginia, as I understand it, you are no longer you no longer quote unquote control a property via a contract. You actually have to take ownership. You have to
Yep.
close. No double closings, none of these other things. You have to have the funds to close. And then if you want to sell it again the next day, that's on you.
Right.
But you have to close. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. And from what I heard, there may be tightening the restrictions on how many days you need to hold that property for. As of right now, there is no grace period, right? You could, as you mentioned, you could turn around and sell it the next day. From what I heard talking to Steve Tran and a couple of people inside of the collective genius space, is that there could be some major changes on how long you need to hold the property before you can actually sell it. So a lot of the wholesalers I know in those spaces, they're getting one-on-one with their big investors and saying, "Hey, how do we close on this under you guys?" And we do it outside. But even then, even if you do it outside and they somehow track you down and figure out that you were paid on a quote unquote assignment, you can get in a lot of trouble. From what I do know, there are some attorneys that have gone around it, that have pulled up some paperwork, that are fighting it, that are still closing. Without saying any names, there are two individuals I know that are still closing, and it's going to be interesting to see what the state of Virginia
Yeah.
does to those individuals.
Yeah, I don't know who they are, so that's okay. But I got to tell you, when a state goes after a practice, I don't think I want to be one of the two or three people trying to fight it. Right?
Most
You've got
definitely
to
not.
pivot, and this is really interesting because we've been talking for quite a while about people needing to pivot in the real estate market, and we talked about it with Airbnb. Remember when Palm Springs came in with new regulations for Airbnb? It's just there's been a lot. It was so easy, Adrian, to make money the last 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
People didn't skill up. They got too dependent on one thing, and now the pain is coming. There's lots of losses. There'll be businesses going broke because they only had one option. I've heard recently from someone else that texting is becoming more and more of a challenge, and people are going to have to go other ways. So
Yeah.
again, I think the next 2 years will be harder than the last 2 years. What do you think of
Most
all that?
definitely. Most definitely. A direct, especially direct to seller. And then the big question is, right, as you mentioned from the beginning, is will this go nationwide? Will other states start to follow suit? And I think that they will. I think Texas is on the verge. I know I saw something from Steve Tran this morning stating that you can't even be a sales trainer without having a sales license inside
Mhm.
of Texas. I think that because this has gotten so trendy, because you can't go on YouTube or Instagram without seeing a video about it, they're catching on. They're catching on, and there's a lot of people being scammed. There's a lot of coaches scamming agents and wholesalers. There's a lot of wholesalers and agents scamming sellers, and it's a crucial thing. Now, will California, Nevada, Arizona? I think that they're a little different. I think that's going to take some time. We may be some of the last states. What I do see occurring, and this is a hallucination, what I do see occurring is them requiring a real estate license to perform any practice. And I think that will be the first, tie down. That'll be the first lock. And then from there, Could there be more? We'll find out. There's not too many people doing novations in California. Those that are on the risk of getting sued, beyond sued. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting play for you wholesalers out there, as we've been talking about forever, as Michael's been talking about forever. Upgrade your skill set. Don't be a one-trick pony. You got to find other ways to create options for sellers in this market.
Yeah, I think I see it as an easy fix for every state to say, if you're going to be involved in a real estate transaction, if you're going to be paid on a real estate transaction, commission, fee, you have to be licensed. I think that's an easy add across the country. Now,
Yep.
of course, I don't know if I only know California, but I'm assume it's the same in the other 49 states. Getting a license to sell real estate is not particularly hard. Um, but I do see that coming. It's like, hey, you can't be a party of a transaction in paid unless you're licensed. I think that makes complete sense.
Yeah. And even then, I think there's going to be some regulations on how you can do it and how you can't do it.
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
And what's going to be also known is that sellers are going to be more aware of what's going on. Right now, most sellers they don't even understand what a wholesale is, right? They don't even know really what's going on. So these would be more awareness. However, when the tide rushes out, we'll see who's standing there with their pants down. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to see that.
For Warren Buffett's famous saying, when the tide goes out, we see who's swimming naked. Again, I think this was predictable, right? Anytime there's easy money, anytime there's people preaching this or that, and the charlatans come in,
Yep.
and the operators, it's really funny. I talked to Jonathan Twombly, who's a syndicator. He wasn't able to buy a deal for like 3 years because of all these new syndicators simply overpaying. And, we've talked a lot about how that pain is coming. Now it's here. Now he's getting excited because he can finally look at deals again. So the true operators are going to grow. The fakepreneurs are going to go bust and probably hurt a lot of people.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And not for nothing, this industry needs it. There's too many YouTube, just got out of high school. I mean, there's 16-year-olds I know that are wholesaling. Like, with all due respect, it's getting too easy. You watch a YouTube video, you get a deal at 95 cents on the dollar, thinking that you're gonna sell it, and you're wasting the seller's time. There's too much going on. I think the industry needs
Yeah.
it. This is a good thing. I don't think this is a bad thing. Now, completely banning wholesaling, I think that's a little extreme. I think there just needs to be some major regulations to it, and to protect the consumer, right?
Yeah.
Overall. And it should be a little difficult for you. Easy money goes really quickly. Like yeah, I have an issue with that. I have an issue with the whole easy money ripping sellers off.
Yeah.
And you see the videos too. What really makes me sick, Zuber, are those price reduction videos where you're already making $25,000 on the deal. You're making 30,000 on the deal. Why are you going back on the phone with Grandma Susie to get an additional $15,000 price reduction when that's all she has left? Like,
Mm.
that's what's really bothering. That's, if anything, that when I see those videos, I'm like, you know what? I agree with the regulations. I agree with some of the stuff that's going on there, because that is wrong.
Yeah. Karma's a bitch. Karma is going to penalize these bad actors, these grifters, these folks that are in it for themselves. Um, yeah, I agree with the regulation, and I have no problem banning wholesaling completely. It's fine by me. I think requiring a license is a great idea. I think that's an easy ad. That could be an executive order by every governor. Because again, if you're going to be involved and paid on a real estate transaction, you should have a license. You should be held to a standard. And at least that is my opinion.
Yeah.
Again, Adrian, if somebody wanted to get hold of you, figure out what's going on in your world, how would they do that?
Find me on Instagram, guys, at Adrian Hernandez. YouTube, just type in Adrian Hernandez.
There you go, bud. Thanks again.
Go.